One thing that you have to be extremely careful of when printing in Excel is how many pieces of paper you're going to use. One thing that Excel does not come with is predefined paper size. It's a massive spreadsheet. It in fact has 17,179,869,184 cells. Depending on how wide you make those cells, how high you make those cells, you could be using thousands upon thousands of sheets of paper. So one thing to always check before you ever print in Excel is print preview. Now, when you firstly go to the print dialog box in 2013, it now includes all the print settings and print preview. And here we see how many pages we're going to need. But we can still control that. We have full control over the page settings. Now really, in order to do this, there are two main tools. Let's just escape to go back to the document. The first of those tools is to change the view to page break preview. View, page break preview, and then we can see how many pages are being used and really how that distribution is taking place. So although there are 12 pages in use, 12th, 11th and 10th page over here are not that well used because they only have 3 columns in them. And in fact, 2 of the columns have no data. So we could do a little bit about that. So that's the first of your tools. In Page Break Preview, you can actually move the page breaks. If I wanted to move my page breaks over, I could move that one over to include Town City, and I could move that one over to include these other columns. And then you see we now have, that's page 1, that's page 2, and between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, there's not much data going on there. So I could actually drag that down to the bottom. And we're now forcing the data to fit onto 2 sheets of paper. Now on the screen, that doesn't look too bad, but if we go back to print, preview, we see that that's quite squashed up. It fits, but it is a bit squishy. It might not be that legible because we've had to squash that much data, which was 12 sheets, down into 2 sheets, but it is achievable. So that's escape. So that's Page Break Preview, first of the useful tools. The other, which is extremely useful, if I return back to normal, and notice that in normal, you can't tell that you're squashing this lot into 2 pages. It's just an area that you're now working with. But back in normal, we can make use of the print area. Now the print area is vitally important. If someone comes to your spreadsheet and is being frightfully mean, really, and scrolls down into an area that has not been used at all and makes an entry, Harry the Spider, that will now activate a wider area of your sheet. And when we go to File and Print, we see that even though we're using this massively squashed zoom, we've now gone up to 5 pages, of which 3 and 4 are empty, and then Harry the Spider is written nice and tiny on page 5. Now you can get around that problem, or you can get around a similar problem of avoiding data that you don't want by using a print area. Let's go back to the beginning and set our print area. Now to set the print area, we need to go to the Page Layout ribbon. We need to highlight the data that we would want to print. I'm actually going to miss out that end column because it has no entries, and come all the way down to the last actual person. So I'm avoiding that empty row at the bottom that sort of has a little bit of minimal data in. So that's the area I would like to print. We then go to Page Layout, Print Area, Set Print Area. And now it will only ever want to print when I go to print the area that we've highlighted, which is still being squashed into 2, but it's a much smaller area. I don't have the issue of Harry the Spider. Now there are other tools that we can use. We can increase the margins. If I view the margins here, I can adjust them in the preview. I can sometimes look at changing the orientation as a way of improving the layout. That also can be done here from the print dialog box. And we see that the orientation actually makes things worse. So let's go back to portrait. I can adjust the scaling from here by going into page setup. It's squashed into 46% of its original size because of me adjusting manually the page breaks. So let's go back up to 100. Otherwise our document will not be that legible. But even at 100%, we can then do a little bit of tweaking. You can see that it's just gone over. So now we're back at 100%. Let's go back to View, Page Break Preview. And let's make small adjustments rather than those big adjustments. One of the adjustments I might make now that I've gone back to normal zoom is to change back to landscape. And there we see there is 1 column missing. Now with one column, I can just drag that page break and things will then fit on less pages. Again, always into print to see the preview. Not too bad. Could perhaps have a little play to lose those extra rows there, but then it starts to get smaller and smaller. So it's getting the balance right between the size of the text and the number of pieces of paper that you want to print out. The two biggest controllers here that will help you is the print area, so that you're only printing what you tell it to print, and the page break preview, where you can manually adjust where the page breaks occur. I would be a little bit careful about going too advanced with that, as we did, because text got too small, but certainly very good for adjusting the odd column. There's two little options there for helping improve when you come to print Excel spreadsheets.